Okay, guys, welcome back. So Red Bull BC1 was happened. Man, people are angry about the results. How can Menno win this? So I'm gonna explain how judges like the one in Red Bull BC1 see that those battles and how they get to these results, because a lot of people actually don't understand this at all. I think if you're sort of really in the pro scene or you really know about breaking, it pretty much makes sense. Everything makes more or less sense. Maybe there was not really upsetting results when you look at it from the perspective of, man, this is how battles work, this is how judges look at things. But for a lot of people, they don't understand it. They don't understand at all, right? So I watched some of the battles, so I'm gonna review them quickly, but only the ones with Menno because people are mostly mad that he won. But I want to quickly talk about the Hero 10 battle against Samuka, right? Because Hero 10 is amazing, and I already seen comments, man, Hero 10 got robbed. But you have to look at it from the judge's perspective, not from, okay, he's amazing at power moves, because he is, right? He can do some amazing power moves. But he crashes, right? He crashes, actually, he crashed twice. So the first round was pretty nice with the Brazil shot, nice little jab there. And then, you know, he grabbed that walking stick of Samuka and did something pretty cool. Like he did windmill to head spin twice, and then he did sort of the whole run like that. But you have to not look, like, if you look at that, like, man, that's dope. I really like that. He takes care of that. But from the judge's perspective, that whole run is a big fat crash, right? I know you don't see it like that. You look at it, man, that's a dope run, that's a nice burn. It is. But if you look at how he lands from that headspin drill, he falls on top of the cane. That's a crash, right? Now, it's not like gymnastics that when you crash, it's all over. But it is like, man, okay, the judges have to, of course, pick a side, and they also have to basically justify what they are saying. And in that case, you know, like, okay, Samuka did not crash in such a way, because later on he tried a two-handed 2000 like this from pushing out, and yet again he crashed there, right? So Hero 10 crashed twice, and both these runs are sort of almost invalidated. But you think, like, yeah, but it's one little slip up, why does that matter so much? Well, because it's Red Bull BC1 mostly also. If it's a very small battle in a back room, it doesn't really matter so much. The judges can pretty much just give their opinion on what's dope and what's happening. But in that stage, there's so much at stake. So they can't just justify someone crashing around and letting him win, right? So we're going to talk about Menno and what Menno did. Because people are so angry about it, you know, and I'm going to explain sort of from the view of the judges. You also have to remember who sits there at the judge table, right? No, it's not blind favoritism, but someone like Amir, you know, when you look at his runs, he's not the same as Menno at all, but he does a lot of signatures. Now, if you look at Menno, his whole run is signatures, nothing but signatures, nothing but moves he sort of created and flowed in and out of, right? So obviously those guys sort of, okay, this aligns with what I see as dope, right? So let's get to it. Menno versus Nori, right? Nori had some slip-ups and quite a rough around the edges thing. I think he was more musically on point than Menno, and pretty much every battle this might be the case, but he was really rough around the edges the second and the third round. Also that burn of Menno with his bandana that flew off, right? It sort of was quite an obvious win if you look at it like that. So no, it's not what Nori does, because what he does is quite dope, but at some point he's just laying still there doing this shit. It's almost Reagan level from, man, you shouldn't do this because it's the wrong approach. You're not just having fun in the sense that, man, if you want to win, this stuff is kind of whack. He did some back rocks, quite rough. Now, you think, but you know, like, rough, it's b-boy, right? No, but the judges see this as more or less failures, right? I'm not saying it's bad. It's pretty much every competitor there is good. But that's how the judges see this. This is sort of how they look at it. They look at these battles and see, man, okay, yeah, this is rough around the edges, right? And or rough or a crash, an obvious crash, right? So that's actually what happened in that battle. and Menno took it purely on flow. I wouldn't be surprised if Nori got a vote from one of the judges, but he didn't get any, and that's because he was way too rough around the edges. Lane still doing sort of like his first run was really nice actually, but the second, third run is kind of, the run was nice, but there was whack stuff in there sort of more or less, right? So that's how they look at it from that point and perspective, guys. Okay, Menno versus Victor, right? So Victor is a very steady breaker. Like Menno, is sort of almost flawless, but actually in this battle he messed up quite a bit. I think he took one round, but the first round pretty much Menno destroyed him. And then the last round he also, like, he really crashes out of a chair flare. Now you don't see it. He's very good, obviously. He's one of the, you know, he wins battles all the time. He knows how to catch up. But you have to look at it from the judge's perspective, like, okay, he's messing up there, and I have to pick a side. Menno was cleaner. Also, some of his stuff could be, you know, if it's your shit, it's kind of nice, but some of his stuff was not that clean, right? He did catch musicality, but it wasn't that amazing, to be honest. Now, Victor is an amazing b-boy, don't get me wrong, but he was yet again messing up in a couple of rounds. Looking at Menno, you know, this guy never messes up. He kept it sort of fresh. Now, all his stuff looks alike with these rolls, but if you look closely, all rounds that he did till now, he did not repeat. He kept coming up with new stuff. Even though it looks the same to you, the judges really take mental notes of each round, so they can later say, okay, yeah, you lost because you repeated, right? That's, for them, it's easy. Like, say, yeah, but you already did that stuff. If you look at Elvin, each round, he did flash air flare, elbow to up, and he used that in a special way. So each round, almost, he repeated the same moves, right? But in the case of Menno, it all looks alike, but he uses it in a different way. So, yeah, Vic simply messed up a couple of times. His first round wasn't that great. His last round was basically a crash, right? So yet again, it's not how you should look at battles. You can just enjoy a battle or just think, man, I like that other guy way more. But the judges don't see it that way. Battle against Samuka. So Menno versus Samuka was for me very close actually. I actually thought it was an upset. My friend didn't really think so. I think, you know, like, no offense to Samuka, because his run was amazing. Like, he did the windmill, but he did use his hand and went to a head spin drill. It looks amazing because he has one leg. More than it actually is amazing, because he did 2 rounds of drill and he went very nice back to flares. Super nice, especially how he did it. I did think he took the first round, even though that round of Menno was amazingly strong, right? But his second round was not as strong, and his third round was actually, if you look closely, he was really rough around the edges. But personally, I did think actually this could be the upset, and he could have beaten Menno when I watched it. Then just now I rewatched it just to give you this little preview and how the judges look at it. But I did think he made a real chance. He did really nice runs. I've seen Samuka live in Amsterdam when there was a battle breaker leg, and he took the whole thing. This guy can do on one leg what a lot of people can't do with 2 legs, right? He's an amazing b-boy, but at the end of the day, probably his third round, you know, sort of cost him the battle. Also, even though that the crowd reacts strongly, does not mean the judges react strongly. If you look at guys like Lil G, 2 rounds of head spin drill is pretty much he sees that every day, right? So it's not that amazing for him. Obviously he might get influenced because the crowd loves it so much, right? But it's not like that. The judges don't look like that. They look at crashes, they look at the repeats, and then they look like, man, this is a very nice run. I personally did think that first run with the head spin drill was his stronger run, and I did think he took that one run, but you know, he probably messed it up the second and third run, I think. You also have to look really closely at Menno, that, you know, like, yet again for the judges, he's a flawless breaker. He doesn't crash, he doesn't repeat, and he keeps his flow constantly. You know, he did some very nice moves, but you have to look closely at the details. He did handcuff windmills in the middle of his set, which was very clean and very well done. He's actually, if you look at it a certain way, or you just notice more how flawless he is in his breaking, right? Maybe boring to you, but for the judges, it's like, okay, this one guy is way cleaner than the other. But I personally did think Samuka had a real chance to beat him, to be honest. Yeah, a close battle, you know, but at the end of the day, probably the third round was the roughest for Samuka. And also you have to look at like small repeats, like the fist he already did, and obviously his flares, he did them a couple of times already, and he did touch the floor a couple of times in them, right? So, but could have gone either way, to be really honest. I thought Menno was quite strong in this battle, but Samuka was equally strong. To me, it could have been Samuka personally. But yeah, you know, it's not amazingly strange that Menno wins this, okay? Okay, and then the final against Icy Ives. I thought Icy Ives, you know, I already knew of him. Obviously, he's quite a famous b-boy. But man, he came on point that whole battle, basically. But in the final, he yet again was rougher around the edges than Menno on a lot of parts. I did think he was more musical, I give him that, but his flow was not nearly as close as Menno's, right? The first round of Menno pretty much took care of him already, but you know, there's certain things that if you look at it from a certain way, it's like, man, this makes sense, this decision makes sense. Also, you have to remember that if you count signatures, well, Icy Ives was actually already repeating some of his stuff, but Menno still came up with new stuff, right? So the judges love that shit. Like, wow, he's keep doing new shit and he's not repeating, he's not falling, right? Now all his stuff looks alike. So basically, all you have to learn from this is that all these dancers are amazing, but in a way, Menno is a flawless dancer in the eyes of judges, right? Not to you, obviously. You don't like him at all, but for the judges, he's flawless. He's not messing up, he's not repeating, he does only signatures. He doesn't even do, sometimes he sticks some small foundation in there, but he's like, everything stays nice and clean, no obvious crashes, even though they are there. They are in every b-boys. These guys are just very good in covering all that shit up, guys. But yeah, and that's sort of why he wins those battles, right? So you can also have an upset. I did it. Samuka had a real chance of beating him. I'm not mad. He lost. Now the pro b-boys sort of understand this, actually. Like, even Vic knew he lost, but if you look at the comments, you know, they don't know. The people sort of, I know that probably 10 years back, or you don't even know about how original Menno is. It makes a lot less sense. You just see him rolling around on the floor. You think like, okay, this guy's just rolling around, right? But you have to understand that his flow is perfect. He never messes up his flow. It never goes down. And that's sort of what we saw also a little bit by the other competitors here and there. Like I said, if you look closely at Nori, who a lot of people think was strong against Menno, he messed up there a little bit, guys. So yet again, it's your opinion. If you think Menno should not have won, that's fine. And just enjoying a battle is a great way to see it also. Like, wow, I love that, you know, Elvin is flying around. I love Elvin. Boom, done. I actually thought that drop took him, by the way, but whatever. But, you know, like, okay, I love that stuff. And you can watch it like that. But the judges don't watch it like that, right? Also, you have to understand that a lot of them see amazing shit all the time. They're like in the pro b-boy scene. They train and dance with the best b-boys of all time. So yet again, that 2 rounds of head spin drill of Samuka, even though it's super nice, don't get me wrong, it's super awesome, it's not that amazing to judges who see the best of the best all the time, right? So that's also a little bit the reason why sometimes power moves don't impress them so much. For me personally, this is a fun fact. I always love power move, and I always watch like power move battles, and those are the best power movers. So if I see someone like you know, certain Japanese b-boys like Nori or whatever, quite nice power, to me that's actually not impressive at all, because I've seen that's the lowest base of those power move levels, right? So then it gets also a little bit less impressive, but the judges also see those kind of b-boys all the time. They're used to having really good power around them, and they sort of vote also through that. at the end of the day, you know, like I think every competitor was really, really good. But that is why Menno won in the eyes of the judges. You don't have to agree at all, but just explaining it because people are so angry, right? See you next time.